Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Hi, I'm Daniela. I'm a software developer. I work on Bitcoin Core. But today, I'm not talking about technicalities, because I want to tell you how you can actually contribute to Bitcoin, even if you don't code. Because when I started out and I discovered what Bitcoin is, I was honestly pretty amazed. It's a way to send money across the globe. You don't need the permission of anyone. I thought it was so perfect and done, and it would just work seamlessly. And as many people do, I started studying. I consumed every possible Bitcoin book, Bitcoin course, Bitcoin video I could find. And with time, at first you think, oh my gosh, this is perfect, this is great. And then you start seeing room for improvement in many ways, right? It can be technical improvement. When I started looking at Bitcoin, there was no Lightning Network. There was the concept of Lightning Network, but it wouldn't exist in practice. So, but also, on the maybe user interface side, there's a lot of ways Bitcoin could improve. And when you start studying it a lot or trying out all the tools, you realize, it's not perfect. However, at the time, I thought there was this set of developers that were just godlike creatures, maybe like 10 of them. They knew everything about Bitcoin. They knew every possible solution to every possible technical problem. And so how could I even be of help? I was already a software developer, and I realized if you're a dev, maybe it's a bit easier to, start contributing. However, I thought I have nothing to give. They're so smart, they will solve all of Bitcoin problems. I don't need to do anything. And honestly, for a while, I spent time kind of just sitting passively, waiting to someone to fix all the small problems I would see in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still awesome, right? But, small problems. And then I was able to peek behind the scenes and to look behind the curtain, let's say. And I realized that there's this big Bitcoin community that is built by so many different people with so many different skill sets. And, to each their own. Everyone kind of does something that is a little bit different, and we're building Bitcoin all together. So what I want to do today is I want to tell you who are these roles, these people that actually build Bitcoin, and how can you become one of them. There's two very important things to realize. The first one is, although it's going to be 7 different roles, you don't have to be in one single role. They're kind of, you can switch between multiple roles, and as we'll see, some of them, everyone does them. The second very important thing is you don't need to wait to have a Bitcoin job to start contributing. I know it's hard to contribute if it's not what you do for work. However, Bitcoin is permissionless. You can just start helping out without being paid for it, without having a company telling you to do so. So, on to these different roles. The first one is maybe the obvious one, which is the builder. Someone like me, the software developer, the people that build the features, that they improve the existing tools. And this is maybe one of those roles that we all know they are, but there's a lot of them, even on the technical side. So for example, if you're a technical person, but you're not ready to be a dev, or you don't like it, one thing you can be is you can try to be a tester, someone that tries out the products and the apps before they get released to the public. So in this way, you can find this problem. You can find if there's edge cases. You can go on GitHub and you can try it out. Your favorite wallet, you can try it out before it gets published. And then give your feedback to the developers. It can be, hey, I tried it in this very weird scenario and I had this crash. Or it can also be, I tried out in all these scenarios, it worked perfectly, good job, that's it. Then, if you're still technical, but maybe not that technical, you want to be a bit more on a creative role, you can be actually a designer. Someone that helps Bitcoin making sense. Someone that redesigns the interface and makes sure, studies how to explain some concept to users. For example, the concept of paying a transaction fee when you send a transaction, which at first is a bit weird to people, because it works in a weird way, especially on chain. So, designers, they make what is hard about Bitcoin, they make it easy for people. Still technical, but maybe it doesn't have to be technical. There's educators, anyone that make understanding possible. So you can be an educator on the technical side, but you can, of course, explain the economy, the philosophy behind Bitcoin. You can also just translate what other educators build for your local community. If you're not an English speaker, that's also a very good if you're not a native English speaker, that's a very good way of just helping out your community. And without educators, we remain in echo chambers. If there's no one that is explaining Bitcoin to the people that don't know it, we're just stuck here with this amount of people in Bitcoin. Then there's still on the social layer, you can be an organizer, someone that tries to organize people together. That can be in digital communities. So for example, there are developers working on products, but they're not always the most organized people, so you can just try to put them together, make them talk, make the testers and the designers and the developer all talk together. Or maybe you can try to be an organizer in real life. I'm sure there is, however small, Bitcoin community where you live. So something you can do is you can organize a small meetup, coffee afternoon with the Bitcoiners. Organizer make this invisible work, this behind-the-scene work. Someone organized this whole conference. So, there's a lot of organizers out there, and we usually don't even see them. Something else you can try to do, you can try to be a storyteller, someone that explains why Bitcoin matters. You can be a podcaster, or you can go on Twitter and explain why it's important that everyone uses Bitcoin. You can also just go to your family dinner and tell everyone, all your relatives, why Bitcoin is so important. So I would say we are all storytellers in a small way. And something else that we all do, but maybe we don't realize, we're all thinkers. We're all kind of Bitcoin philosophers. We all like to ask the important questions and to try to, some more than the other, obviously, and try to have a discussion with others. I would say the thinkers that are usually only thinkers, they don't have a great reputation often, but it shouldn't be that way. You can be a thinker and spend your day on Twitter fighting with people, and that's okay. You are pushing Bitcoin forward, even in a very philosophical way. So we have these 7 different roles, and I'm pretty sure that most of you find yourself in some of these in some way. Often multiple of them, as I was saying. So for example, I'm a builder, but right now I'm more of an educator maybe. I'm trying to teach you something. There's actually an 8th role that is very important, and people forget about it. And it's the newbie, someone that is just starting out. And the newbie is so important because they can ask questions. They just contribute by showing up. They help all the other roles because they help them realize what are the blind spots. So for example, I'm a developer, and I remember that when I started out in Bitcoin, I had so many technical questions, so many things I just wouldn't understand. I would read on books, and I wasn't sure. So for example, transaction inputs, they didn't make any sense to me. I would understand transaction outputs. Inputs, for some reason, no. And I never asked the question in a very explicit way. I just waited for them to become obvious. And right now, I look back in time, I have no idea what was so confusing to me. If I knew it, I could be able to create some piece of education to actually help someone. But I didn't. So if you're just starting out, one thing you can do is to ask a lot of questions, either in person, in forums, and you will help the developer understand what they're not building in a decent and easy way. You will help the designers and the educators understand what are the blind spots that they're missing. And more importantly, every one of us, every single contributor you see out there, started out as a dev. We all were once. All the people that you see on stage, years back, they just wouldn't understand Bitcoin. They had so many questions. So especially if you're a newbie, someone that just started out, I really invite you to just try to wear many different hats. just try and either just be a newbie or trying to find whatever works best for you. And there's so many small steps that you can take. So for example, if you want to be a builder, one thing you can do is you can try and review someone else's PR. You read their code and you try to say, I don't know, maybe this edge case, or else if you want to be a tester, you can do that practically and then give back feedback. If you want to be a designer, you can take one Bitcoin wallet, for example, and if you see something that is not exactly built in the right way, you can just try to redesign an interface. If you're an educator, there's so many education material out there, but every education material is written for someone that is a little bit different. So you can try to take one small topic that you just learned about, and you can try to write about it. If you want to be an organizer, you can try to organize a small Bitcoin meetup, or you can also try and help some open source projects get a bit more organized. Storytellers, if you want to be a storyteller, just try to write a thread on why Bitcoin matters. And if you're a thinker, just try and spark a discussion on social media. Just try and go on Twitter and say something, we should raise the 21 million cap, and just spark discussion and make people think about Bitcoin. And if you're someone that is just starting out, ask questions and try those different roles. Because I can assure you that if you do the first step and you try it out and you continue putting passion into it, I can totally say that there's going to be a place for you and you'll be able to contribute to Bitcoin. Thank you. Thank you.
Secure your BTC Prague 2026 ticket at the lowest possible price now.